Hey, goodest bitches. Do you believe in magic? Do you believe in magic? There was this weird point in the 90s and early 2000s where everyone did for some reason. And as a result, magic shows, both live and on TV, were a big thing for a while. I suspect J.K. Rowling had something to do with this. That woman just never stops, does she? There especially seems to be this surge of Criss Angel content across the YouTube landscape lately, reminding all of us just how cringe that guy we thought was so cool actually was. I mean, we were like 10, and he wore eyeliner. Of course he was cool. And I've been loving every single one of these videos. I just can't believe it took me decades to realize that Criss looks and sounds exactly like Tommy Wiseau.
I'm gonna stand over here. I want you to pick a CD. Everything's completely legit.
Yep.
Don't feel bad about making fun of his accent, by the way. I looked it up. He's from Hempstead, New York. There's no reason for him to talk like that. It's not a New York accent. Roast away. Nobody cares. There's a score of other TV magicians out there like David Blaine, bunch of other ones. But going down the Criss Angel rabbit hole reminded me of a different magic show I watched when it first aired. Something way cringier, something way more misogynistic, but the biggest problem lies in the show's actual title. Say no more, fam. Greetings, my good bitches. The name's Francis. Coke Francis. I'm a filmmaker, stand-up comedian, drag artist, and I'm here because I dated a magician over a decade ago and still have a personal vendetta towards the profession. Breaking the Magician's Code was a 5-part TV series that aired from 1998 to 2002 and was later rebooted in 2008. It featured the monster from The Shape of Water, several scantily clad women whom the narrator loved to remind you that they were, in fact, scantily clad, and elaborate magic tricks that are neither elaborate nor magical. But here's that M. Night twist that we've all been waiting for. After he does the tricks, they fucking tell you how they were done. And that was the premise for the show, and the reason for its popularity. Or maybe it was the hot babes. I don't know. I watched the show sometime around 9/11. Reality would come crashing down sooner or later. So in keeping with the theme of some of my previous videos, we'll be taking a little levitation down memory lane as we explore a long-forgotten show that seems to value its heterosexuality over magic. But before we begin, please find your nearest magic show and volunteer to participate in an up-close magic trick. And as soon as the magician reaches behind your ear, drop your dress pants in an act of misdirection and dick slap those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. Let's get loud. So the first episode we'll be observing is episode 1 of the OG version that first aired in '98, complete with the bald dude from the X-Files and actually kind of fierce 90s boots that the assistants got to wear.
You're about to see one of the world's top magicians break his code of silence and reveal some of magic's most closely guarded secrets. We're really not sure why a well-known magician would go on television and expose these deep, dark secrets.
Honey, I think we all know why. Apparently, the rest of the magic community was able to guess who this guy was just based off his mannerisms and showmanship, so the voodoo Jason Voorhees mask was pretty pointless. Okay, so we're starting with turning one of the assistants into a tiger, following the work of a probably now fired choreographer.
The tricks are all basically the same.
It's true. Spoiler alert? No, wait. This whole show is spoilers, that's the whole point. Every single one of these tricks literally boils down to, look at how skinny our assistants are. Also, the narrator somehow feels it's necessary to explain why curtains are used in magic tricks.
The cage is then covered by a yellow curtain. There's a reason for this.
We're only 2.5 minutes in, and I'm already being treated as if I'm not even old enough to see one of these shows in the first place. And poof! The girl is now a tiger, even though there's a weirdly gigantic bottom platform that a human being can easily fit inside of.
Take another look. The compartment is extremely shallow. That's why you don't see too many overweight assistants.
If they really want to be impressive, they should use fat assistants so that people with half a brainstem can actually wonder how it's done. Also, apparently we weren't supposed to see these people feeding the tiger raw meat literally seconds before the trick was done. Maybe if they had fat assistants, they could have disguised that more easily. Oh, wait, they didn't have to, because this is a film set where they got multiple takes of the same thing and had an editor make it appear otherwise. Then we get the good old Chinese lantern trick where Magic Man demonstrates that there's nobody behind or inside the lantern, even though you can clearly see the shadow right where he does not shine the light. And whoops the daisicles! A lady shows up out of nowhere, dancing the same way I do when I'm drunk at goth clubs. The secret this time is that the assistant was skinny enough to hide behind the box. Although, I will say, this girl is giving me big Fairuza Bulk energy, and I am here for it. Okay, levitating woman time. Magic Boy finds an assistant with a long flowy dress, and they deliver the most convincing hypnosis demonstration I have ever seen. But there she goes, and the proof is in the hoop.
First, in order to levitate, you don't need to be put into a trance. All you need is some heavy machinery and the right evening gown.
You heard it here first, folks. Apparently, all you need to levitate is a long flowy gown and a hydraulic forklift operated by a guy who looks like his favorite movie is Primer. The trick with the hula hoop is kind of cool because the practice of sleight of hand is what magic is all about, not a fucking forklift.
Sorry to bring you back down to earth, but this is the only way to levitate.
And Chris Angel is like, hold my beer.
The magician is put into a straitjacket. This is a real straitjacket, the kind you'd find at any good asylum.
For those of you watching at home who are actually impressed so far, I bet you still think asylums use straitjackets like these. They all put chains around the box and drill it shut and put a stick of dynamite on it. Holy shit, man. It's not like one of those other boxes with a trap door or something that's easily hidden behind the direction of a TV camera or something. This guy's really fucked. Nah, homie was just barely buckled into the jacket and got really good at wriggling out of it. Then he puts on one of those black jumpsuits and a wig and bolts. Good shit, am I right?
Before we continue, I must tell you that everyone working on this program has been sworn to secrecy.
You really think this guy didn't talk about doing this show over a couple brewskis with the homies later? Anyway, I don't have time to roast all of the tricks in this episode, and neither do you, so here's a summary. Zigzag Girl. Look at how skinny this assistant is. Metamorphosis. Look at how skinny this assistant is. Sawing a woman in half. Look at how flexible this assistant is. Oh, and skinny. Sword basket. Look at how skinny, flexible, and willing to risk injury this assistant is. Rabbit out of a hat. Look at how... Alright, that guy's pretty cute and very well behaved. What a good boy. The last trick is the vanishing elephant, which, I'll admit, I was pretty curious to see how this one was done. The answer? Literally, smoke and mirrors. That's it. Oh, and an extremely elaborate set that only Fox was able to afford to make the mirrors work at all. Are we supposed to be impressed by how much money they have? So, we finished the very first episode of Breaking the Magician's Code. Was it an insult to our intelligence? Absolutely. Was it the most boring and predictable magic show ever broadcast? Of course. Was it as cringe-inducing and mind-bogglingly sexist as the 2008 reboot?
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Yes, good bitches. About a decade later, a group of executives at Fox got together and were like, hey, remember that magic show we made for people who think Dr. Phil is a real doctor? Yeah. Okay, so like, let's bring the dude back, but I don't know, I feel like the girls just weren't uncomfortable enough. Yeah, okay, this time around, we'll slash their costume budget in half, and then we'll hire the owner of a fetish page on Tumblr to do the narration. Fucking brilliant, Jim. Thank you, Jerry. I love you. I love you too, Jim. Wanna fuck later? And they did just that, and the results are... well, you'll see. To their credit, they definitely upped the ante on the editing, which does help a whole lot, at least in making the promo look promising. They also advertised the WWE Divas about every 5 minutes, and then when they actually do show up, they act as if it's supposed to be a big surprise all along, which is actually pretty fitting for the spirit of this show. The assistants had to ditch their fierce 90s boots for uniforms that would make a Hooters girl blush. And no, I'm not slut-shaming these girls or criticizing them for wearing skimpy outfits in any way whatsoever. The issue is why they had to wear them in the first place.
I think we've seen enough of the magician to know that something magical happens when he gets his girls under the sheets. 2 of his lovely assistants enter to lend a hand and, as always, some eye candy. He invites the girl to step into the box. Knowing what it means to her career, she obeys.
I beg your pardon?
If I was going to include every creepy thing that the narrator just couldn't resist saying about these women, this video would be longer than a Sisters of Mercy song. The first trick is them trying to actually make us think that this giant saw blade is actually cutting the dude in half. No blood though, and this was before Fox was owned by Disney. The narrator asks us multiple times how he did the trick before explaining multiple times how it was done, and then telling us multiple times how we now know it's done. This is a running theme with every goddamn trick they perform. I'm pretty sure this show is specifically made for people who enjoy watching paint dry.
You're watching the paint dry? Shh! This is the best part.
Here's a simple trick with an ordinary wooden toothpick that will make you the life of the party. It all comes down to this tiny square of tape. The tape and the toothpick are all you'll need to pull this off and amaze your friends.
Hey, you guys want to see a magic trick? Okay, cool. Hey, Sharon? Sharon, do you have any tape I could borrow? No, it's for a magic trick. A magic trick. Wait, where are you going? Are you going to get tape? I thought it would be the same deal with the mysterious floating soda can, except it's even stupider.
How did the magician make the soda can float? This secret isn't too hard to put your finger on.
Hey, Sharon? Have you seen my fake thumb? No, the other fake thumb. The sticky one. God damn it, Sharon, I'm starting to look like a real jackass here. Now comes the disappearing girl trick, and the first onslaught of cancer-inducing objectification that I'm sure this girl was positively thrilled with.
The magician then calls in one of his beautiful assistants so we can get a good look at her. This guy's got it made. There's the girl still in the chair. He can't resist seeing her one last time, allowing her to slide her lovely legs into a trap door hidden in the platform.
The trick is done by her using a trap door and a black headpiece, and she's super skinny, blah blah blah. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. Nothing matters.
God, I just watched the death in your eyes there. That was so good.
This show made me die inside, honestly.
It's like you're just trying to watch the show, and like your uncle is like sitting next to you and like, hey, how about those honkas?
Okay guys, get ready for the super surprise event that's already been advertised at least 3 times. Complete with WWE divas I've never heard of, the narrator outdoing his perviness with not even clever jokes, and a trick that can literally only be done on TV. Even the show admits that themselves and then acts like it's supposed to be even remotely impressive, and not for the sole intention of telling us, once again, that the hot babes are hot. Ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, I present to you one of the worst things I've ever featured on this channel.
I say a Bentley because I'm not sure that it's really his. Then again, sexy models usually stop short of examining the registration. Now for some girls. A parade of assistants. But the women he wants to impress tonight are WWE divas Eve and Maria. I can see why. The magician is going to attempt to turn these photos of the divas into the real thing. The magician always seems to have an extra king-size sheet lying around just in case. The girls raise the sheet for a moment, and now they're lowering it back over the car. The Bentley has magically turned into a Lamborghini full of fun, complete with WWE divas, Eve and Maria. Why can't they all be this spectacular? Holy moly. The secret is simple and starts with the fact that this trick can only be performed for a television audience.
Wild how the narrator is allowed to say all that, but there can't be any blood on the buzzsaw. I will say though, shout out to the real MVP of this trick, the PA who's just happy to be here.
Whoever he is and whatever he's doing now, I wish him nothing but the best.
I hope he's doing well.
I hope he's moved to like a town he didn't expect to live in. He has a nice life there. He has a decent work-life balance.
I mean, I hope so. I hope so. What if he's like in prison? So, fun fact, before I decided to go down a bottomless pit of drag and debauchery, I was actually a classically trained musician once upon a time. Piano and cello, to be exact. And that's exactly why this next trick gives me appendicitis.
Now there's a level of sophistication we haven't seen before, and back down. Where did they go?
Here's the thing though, nobody has to be a trained musician or even has to have touched an instrument in their entire lives to see that the music does not match up with their movements at all. They couldn't even put in the effort to make this trick look remotely convincing. And just like the secret to the trick itself, and every other trick on here is bafflingly lazy and unimpressive. Okay, we're finally at our final trick where Masky Boy will show us how he walks through a wall. Apparently, this is going to take 10 minutes of the episode to explain, so color me intrigued. Let's get loud. So, the one thing that sets this trick apart from the others is that the secret has nothing to do with the assistants being skinny or hot or whatever. It is just as lame though, complete with another trapdoor and another double that every magician can totally afford. Not to mention these other assistants pushing their hands through the fabric and thinking that we won't totally know it's them. Cool, that's finally over. Let's talk about it, I guess. I don't know. Of course, I thought this show was super cool when it first aired, not because of the hot babes, but because I actually got to see how the tricks are done. Because I was a child and didn't understand that the whole point of magic is to not know how it's done. It's not a fucking magic show at that point. It's a docuseries about how some dude in his 40s does stunts nobody can afford, while some creep in his 40s tells us how it's done, and reminds the viewer, once again, that the hot babes are hot, even though they're doing 90% of the work and probably working on an America's Next Top Model salary. The man behind the mask is Val Valentino, who, as you can probably imagine, was banished from the magic community once he revealed his identity. When he signed on to do the show, it was on the condition that he would only do tricks that people were already familiar with, like the rabbit out of the hat, the levitating lady, all that trad shit. If you go to any live magic show today, you'll pretty much never see these tricks done because they've been exhausted to death. Modern magicians create their own illusions that are unique and still a mystery to the public. One of Valentino's main defenses for doing the show is that most of the entertainment in magic shows lies in the showmanship and presentation, not in the tricks themselves. Which I totally understand. It's a very similar deal in stand-up comedy. There are only so many things to joke about, and there are no new stories, just new ways of telling them. Your joke should be strong, but good delivery is paramount. Two people could tell a joke about the exact same topic, but when delivered differently with one's own unique perspective on the topic, they become independent of each other. The same goes for YouTubing, music making, filmmaking, any creative outlet, really. On the other side of the coin, wank, the magic community did not feel the same way, and they had good reason. Traveling magician duo Kevin and Cindy Spencer claimed that they were forced to scrap two of their tricks and slapped Valentino with the first of many lawsuits to come from doing this show. Andre Cole is the magician said to have perfected the Table of Death illusion and tried to prevent Fox from airing the secret to it in a later episode. He licensed this trick to 7 of the top magicians in the world and estimated about $500,000 in financial damages as a result of this show. But since magic tricks aren't considered intellectual property under copyright law, his efforts were unsuccessful, as were everybody else's. Valentino's other defense was that it would encourage children to try magic rather than discourage them. Okay, fine, but keeping those secrets didn't seem to be a deterrent for him or any magician of any age prior to this. If someone is inspired after a magic show, their first thought shouldn't be, wow, I wonder if I could do some of those tricks someday. If only there was a show on Fox with hot babes that would tell me how to do these extremely cliche tricks down to every last detail. So yeah, Val sold out, and even though his heart might have been in the right place, all he really did was dick over his community and was forced to hide out in Brazil or something. And if you spend any time looking at the comments from the people who do enjoy this show, you'll soon see why the people who want to learn magic actually have to learn it for themselves. You can't even call it magic for dummies. It's magic for legitimately stupid people. And that's one of the biggest problems with the show. Premise aside, the producers clearly catered to an audience who wouldn't find the actual presentation of this show insulting to their intelligence. I don't care if these are tricks we're already familiar with. Never once did I ask, how does he do that? Anyone can tell how they're done simply by looking at how the boxes are shaped or the distractions the assistants think they're providing. Oh, and, you know, the fact that this was made for TV and then unceremoniously handed over to some poor editor who was tasked with making the show seem exciting.
It's still a mystery.
The bigger and more elaborate the set, the more places there are to hide. This isn't as impressive as magic that's done in an intimate, live setting. Most magicians don't have a setup for a crane or a team of unpaid interns to rotate some platform or even have some platform, period. This show was created by Fox for people who watch Fox. My bet is that the other magicians' lawsuits weren't about exposing the tricks, but for turning such a cool art form into something painfully boring. Also, just to be clear, I'm not trying to sound ableist or anything regarding the screenshots of the comments above. Maybe these people don't speak English as a first language, or they're genuinely mentally disabled, or whatever the fuck, and it's not my intention to shame or discriminate against anybody like that. It's fine if you like this show. A lot of people did, and still do. But if you're impressed by it, you're probably a moron. And no, I will not stop making fun of Chris Angel's dumb fake accent, but I still love you, no matter what, and that's exactly why I'm gonna announce the winning comment from the last video. Quentin Lyle says, "Hi Francis, great content, short, sweet, and to the point. Thank you. You too can be featured in the next video. Leave a comment below and I'll pick my favorite one and give you a shout out next time. If you haven't already, please find your nearest magic show and volunteer for an up-close card trick. And as soon as the magician reaches behind your ear, drop your dress pants in an act of misdirection and dick slap those like and subscribe buttons as hard as you can. And, as always, until next time, have a